Be still for a moment. Stop everything. Drop everything. And come back to the center of your being, the center of your spine, the center of your cells, the center of your breath. The center of your mind. The center of the storm. Life is a storm. Mind is a storm. Constant thoughts, fighting with one another, the past, the future, everything. Mind is a storm. The heart is a storm. Constant fluctuation of emotions, desires, attachment, fear. Body is a storm. There's so many pains, misunderstanding, trouble. So be at the center of the storm, the eye of the storm. At the eye of the storm, there's no knowing. Shift from knowing to being. Knowing has some purpose. We know so we can get a good deal. And we really want that good deal. So we want to know more and more and more. But being has no purpose. Being is free. Being means not thinking, not doing. And so I want to talk for a minute. What does it mean to do nothing? Everyone says, I want to do nothing, I'm doing nothing, there's nothing to do. So, when we're busy and stressed, we think, I want to just do nothing. But what does that mean? What is this nothing? Usually means watching a social media, or going for a walk, or looking at something. Seeing. Is this nothing? Is seeing nothing? Is walking nothing? No, can't be. So, then I close my eyes, and then am I doing nothing? Meditation means doing nothing? No, I'm thinking, I'm trying, I'm conceptualizing. So, it's impossible to do nothing. The doing is something. Your doing is something. Because, one, you have a doer. Main problem with doing is the doer, I. The I is trouble. So the doer is doing something. But nothing means no seeing, no thinking, no remembering, no desiring. And so doing nothing means to rest in awareness, to be present. Awareness is a kind of expansive, quiet listening. In awareness, there's no I. It's not my awareness. Normally we think about my life. Everything is in function of my life. Everything is good or bad in function of my life. And so when we talk about present moment, we can't say my present moment. Because the present moment, by definition, is everything everywhere at once, simultaneously. The present moment includes everything everywhere at once, from the micro to the macrocosm. And so it can't be owned or cut into pieces. So there's no my. So in the presence, there's no I. No mind, no I. No mind, no I is doing nothing. Everything else is doing something. In order to get something. Whatever we're doing, we want some result. Even we're acting nice, we want some result. Whatever we do, in function of the goal. So, doing nothing means not doing but being. Not being like a 44-year-old man from the United States. Not being an identity, but being like the tree is being, like the river is being, like the ants and the grasshoppers are being, like the stars and planets are being. Being means in tune with that core aliveness, that essence, the source, is being. This being is an inner experience, not a show. It's not a show or confirmation from outside, but a kind of inner connectedness. And so, when you hold the tennis racket properly, you can swing, you can connect with the ball, and you can hit the ball nicely. In the same way, when we learn to hold our body, it means the spine, the organs, the breath. When we learn to hold our mind and our heart properly, then very naturally we can dance with life. And so, the science or art of yoga, the sport of yoga, is for training to be grounded and connected in the daily life, moment to moment. When you're training for tennis, you only play tennis for a few hours a day. I used to go to tennis summer camp, and it was 8 hours a day. That's a lot of hours. But still, there's 24, so it's not even half. So you're playing the sport of your life 24 hours a day. So any training you can do, the same one would train certain drills and exercises to attain that effortless mastery, the gracefulness in the sport or art, like a musician or dancer or painter. Then we train in function of the daily life. Now the problem is, people are practicing yoga like a performance or competition. So, if we take a little time each day to challenge ourselves, to awaken our bodies, hearts, and minds, means to stay in shape. To stay in shape, not just physically, but physically, emotionally, mentally. Then, when you're in shape, if someone invites you to come play tennis, it's really enjoyable. Someone invites you to play ultimate frisbee or to play football, and you're running and having a great time. However, if you're out of shape, and you get onto the field, and it feels like torture. It's miserable. It's like, life is torturing. And so, the same game that the one person's enjoying, for the other person is torture. Why? No, because out of shape. So, when we're out of shape, physically, emotionally, mentally, and in this interrelationship between the three, then life itself becomes torture, like a punishment, instead of a celebration, a dance, a journey, an adventure. And so, if you take a little bit of time each day to clean your body, heart, and mind, to water your gardens, your garden of your body, garden of your heart, garden of your mind, then very naturally you become more skillful at being yourself. And this is the most beautiful. The highest beauty is to be yourself. The highest wisdom is to be yourself. We're all the time playing some other part. We're putting on a show for some imaginary someone. Acting from a fear. And so we must grow deep roots. It's very natural. This is the natural way. Or we can, there's really no other option. If you want to get good at tennis, you have to pick up the tennis racket and you have to again and again do the same thing. The same thing. Again and again, forehands. Again and again, backhand. Again and again, topspin. Again and again, short volley. Again and again, service. Until it's so natural, so precise, so effortless, then you can just be in the flow. That's the yoga, that your life is in the flow, not a gymnastics competition. Okay, we have some written questions. Let's dive in. Let's see what we have today. What is meant by in the flow? You can't write this stuff. And how do we know when we are in it or out of it? That's the perfect question. Thank you. It's a wonderful question. This is the most important. How do we know? So someone's singing in the distance, and it's so beautiful. And you feel inside something very warm and expansive. Now someone else is singing nearby, and it's very out of tune, very harsh the sound. How do you feel inside? Something contraction, And so every moment, this is the language of the intuition, the inner wisdom. It's not words, it's a kind of contraction or expansion. And so that's firing all the time, but we are not paying attention. We're spinning in the words and the past, and so many distractions from the inner language, the language of the wisdom. And so one thing is we have to learn to be quiet and then pay attention. And you can very clearly, you hear when it's in tune and out of tune. So you have to look at yourself in this way too. Am I in tune or out of tune? Physically, emotionally, mentally? And through the daily practice is a practice of tuning. And we have to learn, we have to train our nervous system what it means, what it feels like to be in tune. Because this is a realization I had only recently, is that we do not have a model of health. All we have is a model of illness. The Western medical system, and thus the way that we understand our bodies and life, is through illness. And the absence of illness is considered health, but that's not the case. Health is different. It's a kind of vitality and aliveness. And so mental health is nothing to do with health. It's a euphemism for mental illness. We know very well all the illnesses, but what do we know? Who is healthy? What does it mean to be healthy? We have no idea. And we have no good role model. And so, also, our nervous system, our breath, what is it when you're healthy? What is your breath like? When you're balanced, how are you breathing? How is your mind? What's the rhythm of your mind? How is your life? So we have to pay attention. Then through the practice of yoga, we're tuning ourselves. Then we pay attention. What does it feel like when we're breathing, when we're in that state of presence? Then we have to anchor that, remember that. The same way that we always remember about being anxious. And we remember everything we don't like all the time, very clearly. So we use the same faculty of memory, but to remember that state of presence and aliveness. And more we shift the attention to that and away from the disturbed state, dis-ease state, lack of ease. And so this is one aspect of flow, to be in the flow. You can see in the sports players in the flow, you can feel that when you're in the flow. Some people jogging, some people painting in the creative flow, in the life flow. In the flow means not planning, not like the Instagram, not this whole posing. Now we're not in the flow, we're posing. We're posing for life, we're posers. So that's not in the flow. In the flow means spontaneous. Spontaneous, this really shook me. When Osho said spontaneous means that even you don't know what's going to happen. Spontaneous isn't about others. So we have to reawaken that wild, primal aliveness, and then pay attention. We go a certain place, we feel every place has a vibration, like tight or loose. Every person, we have this inner feeling, but we're not paying attention, and we don't trust. So that's why it's important to set up a daily practice and to talk less, if possible. No more silence. So why? So we can see clearly. Because we don't need more information. We're already drowning in useless information. Most of it is negative. Most of it is unpleasant. And we're kind of, it's like a diet, addicted to that diet of unpleasant information. And so, less talking, then we can slow down and cultivate clarity. We don't need to know, we can't even, whatever we know is false, so we can't know. But what we need is, whatever we know, to be really clear in that, instead of unclear about everything. Better to restrict our knowing and in that which is known to be super clear. Means aligned, authentic. Otherwise we just know, we know it's never ending. So in tune, out of tune, in the flow. We have to learn what that means to be in the flow. We have to not learn like the definition, but learn how to get into that flow state, how to cultivate. There's a great book called Flow. We had it in the library for a while. It's like watching a great sports player. You see that flow. So we want to live our life with that flow. We want to master our own particular, unique, individual expression and be authentic and relaxed and at home within ourselves. So this is to be at home within yourself is criteria for being in the flow. If you're not at home in yourself, you cannot be in the flow. It might happen like accidentally, now and then, but to live from that place of the flow. For that, you have to clean your mind and heart. Otherwise, every moment we're unconscious reactions to the past. Then you can't be in the flow, because all the time reacting to things in the past. The same, if the sports player is thinking about the last game, are they in the flow? Sports players thinking about the next game or about their problems at home, then where are they? Whatever applies to the sports applies to the daily life. Whatever applies to music, the arts, applies to the daily life. The training, the execution. Can you please explain your views on death and reincarnation? There's no death, there's only life. Life emerges and then exists and then it collapses. The collapsing, which we're referring to as death, is the same like birth. It's the phase in the churning of life. Life is not the ego, like each mosquito, like, oh, what about me? What about me? Each ant, like, what about me? You know, life is these molecules and atoms and quarks and these elements that are churning in an infinite scale, in an infinite time scale and space scale. And so life can never be understood from the point of view of the individual, but of the wholeness. And so we see the forest. What is the forest? What is the soil? What is the soil? Is the soil death or is the soil life? Right? All this decayed matter from infinite times, from endless times, all the ocean, the sand, and everything. So the death is that gives the life is the death, and every living organism that's filled with the prana, that's imbued with the breath, that breath eventually will go. There are some trees live for thousands of years. Then the time is up. So then the life is moving through all of these different creatures, but the life has no death. The life is infinitely transforming itself. And so every day, then there's night. There's a balanced rhythm and cycle of time, a harmony within time in each form, based on, what's the time based on? The breath. You have a big turtle that's breathing only 4 times per minute. Those turtles are living for hundreds of years. You have a small mouse breathing, 70, 80, 100 times per minute, only living few months. Human being breathing something between, it depends, but somewhere 15 to 60 times per minute, 15 to maybe less than 60. But many times, especially if we're afraid, we're stressed, we're angry. So, because of this, the breakdown of the life, eventually the balance, the life starts to go somewhere else. So for life, there's no death. Only for the individual, or we call the pseudo-individual, the false separate ego identification. Like if each leaf on the tree were like, it's just me, like it's me, and all the leaves are on the tree, but each leaf feels itself to be so unique and special and individual. And in a sense, it's true. But in an ultimate sense, each leaf is just an expression of life, a flowering of life based on certain conditions and circumstance. And so, life continues the flowing. But what about me? What about me, right? So reincarnation, it seems that reincarnation was accepted in all traditions. Even Jesus was teaching reincarnation in some of the Gospels. But the church, this story about one time, then it's easier to control people and to, this whole heaven thing. And so it would seem that the incarnation process is not just within humans, but it starts everyone, all the time. Everything starts from the most basic forms, or gases, and then minerals, and then this kind of like very simple bacteria life, and then moving through different forms, cyanobacteria, plant life, and so on. And so each spark of the consciousness, each spark from the fire, the divine fire, then has to go through every creature in existence, experience all of those births. And in that process, through all of the different plants and sea plants and trees and all these, and then all the different amphibians and so on, and mammals, etc. So already before coming to the human birth is experiencing millions and millions of births. Millions of births, and in every species. And then by the time we become a more or less conscious human being, not even called to the spiritual path, but just a more or less animal human and more human, that's already hundreds of thousands of human births. And so, in that process, it's like winding. It's a certain thing is a winding. And that winding creates a pressure. This creates the karma. These patterns of having from being killed and killing and all these different things. Then we get attachments and desires, unfulfilled desires and more attachments, family things, we do things, so on. And this is creating this kind of like a tight, like a binding. And so then we have to unravel that. Starting from the human birth, we can start to unravel it. Instead of raveling, we can unravel, but mostly we're unraveling more and more. So that means more and more births in order to unravel. And this is why some people are born with deformity, some people are born rich family or poor family, some people die before birth. All of these are karmic. All this is many incarnations. Some people are born with incredible skill. Some people are born already, they can do any kind of mathematics, they can repeat from memory the spiritual texts, all kinds of things. Where is that coming? Where does that come from? In order to embrace the present circumstances. Some people don't have that veil. Some people are born without the veil. And then there are some who learn how to see, the seers. In Brazil, there's this great tradition of the Spiritismo, Spiritism. It started in France, actually, in the 1800s, but then went to Brazil. But there are these great channels who are channeling from beyond. And there's these books, these series of Chico Xavier especially, and incredible about how the spirits, disembodied spirits, can get stuck. And then there's certain in between planes before the reincarnation and different healing work and different learning that's going on and stuff in these worlds. Pretty interesting. I don't know, it must be translated into English. But again, all of that is, we shouldn't get it doesn't mean we want to figure out who is I in my last birth kind of thing, because this is trouble, right? This is a distraction from doing the work that we were meant to do now. So the focus always has to be on the now, here and now, not like living the greatness of the past. They want to do that here, these Angkor temples, like, oh, we were so great, but what about now? And so the same with the past life, everything. Yeah, we know, okay, but that's not, it shouldn't become a point of obsession. So this is the general the Vedic understanding of the incarnation. How do I not take on the energy of others? Good question. How do I not take on the energy of others? So we have a skin, and then because of the skin, this is like a sheath, like a layer of protection of the things inside, like a shield. Then also, like a light bulb, when it's shining, it doesn't just shine inside of the light bulb, but it expands out, and then there's like a aura of light. And so inside is the light. When you die, the light will go. You can see the dead body is no light. So inside is the light. That light is expanding. So you have around you this pranic field, the life force, this vital body field. And in here is stored all the thoughts and emotions and memories and fears, and everything is stored and kind of swimming in here. And then through your breathing, you're circulating that, creating these different blockages in your body, nervous system, of everything. And so when that field is weak, there's lots of holes, or it's like not vibrant, like a plant. When you can see, again, this aliveness is very important. You understand that, not understand with the words, but understand the experience of aliveness, and we can see aliveness in the plants very beautifully. And so we need that same aliveness in our biology, in your biology, my biology, that aliveness. So when we have that aliveness shining in the heart, then it's very luminous and smooth vibration, very pure. Like when you comb your hair, it becomes very smooth. So when you filter your prana, your energy field, like when you digest your food, when you are able to integrate and let go of all the stories, and it becomes very smooth and luminous, then things are bouncing off, right? Because we don't have any holes. So we're less likely. Still, some people have very strong energy. We have certain triggers. We have to be But one thing is we have to cultivate that field, that strong field of presence, aliveness in your breathing, in your presence. Then, because one thing is the energy is affecting, the other thing is we're attracting that negativity. Because of our own fear and thoughts and judgments, then it's like we're calling that to us. And that rhythm that's imprinted in our field, then it's like a magnet. And so that's why we have to purify it. Then not only are we less susceptible to the energy of others, but we're not like putting it out there to, for the universe to slap us in the face and be like, oh, I have to, look at that. So it's all part of this process of awakening. And because we have, so many people around all the time, we have a problem with being with ourselves already. Take on our own energy, it's like, whoa, right? But then our family, right, our coworkers, and then the infinite, NPCs that are floating around in the city, wherever we are. And so, there's no safe place. And so, what's needed is to cultivate that aliveness in your body, in your breath, in your cells, in your blood, in your nervous system, in your glands, in your brain, in your eyes, in your ears, in your nose, in your mouth, in your breath, in your heart, in your mind. But anyway, we need to take the energy from others. But the question is, can we digest it? We take the energy however it comes, then we digest it and just keep that essence, the energy. You let go. Whatever the shell is come as anger, as love, whatever it's coming. Because anyway, life is going to throw a bunch of stuff. So it's not we have to run and hide, or we have to all the time control very carefully everyone who's coming and like this. But it's more that you have to cultivate a strong digestive fire, then you can eat anything. And you don't get sick, but the point is not to get sick. The point is whatever you eat, you can digest it and absorb the essence, and then you can eliminate the waste. In the same way, you have a strong Jamadagni, Bhutagni, Jamadagni. You have two types of inner fire. The one for digesting the food, the other for digesting a life experience. So you have a strong fire for digesting the life experience. Then whatever you get, you turn that into the power. So part of the question is what we're attracting through our own thoughts and emotions. Part of the process is cultivate aliveness, and then that forms a kind of field around you. Also, we see that no matter what we do, we're going to have to digest our food. So we have to digest life. And so, by cultivating strong fire, it means like every day, immediately you eat food, you eat your food, then you forget about it. You don't remember what you ate 2 weeks ago, 5 years and 2 days ago for breakfast. You don't remember what you ate 4 months ago for lunch. Was it good? Was it spicy? Did you digest it well? You don't remember. You don't. You can't. If you were to remember, you would never be able to enjoy this meal. The meal that is now, the meal that is today. In the same way, whatever happens, forget it immediately. You trust that you eat the food, it will be digested. Now, the essence is absorbed, the waste is gone. Why do I need to remember? It's already become part of me. I trust that. In the same way, every life experience, every relationship, every moment, every success and failure, immediately digest it and then forget about it. That essence is absorbed. That pattern. Otherwise, you go on carrying around, dragging as such baggage. We're traveling through Asia, we have a few bags. It's a little bit of a pain. But traveling through life, you have, imagine like that, so many bags. And what are we carrying? Mostly we're carrying a trash. We're carrying the waste. We're carrying around what we don't want. Digest it immediately. Two more questions. How do we feel? Oh, no, how do we feel? How do we feel? So I think that I'm going to take this another direction and then we'll come back to feeling. Often we hear this question, how are you? Or how do you feel? How do you feel is a little better, but how are you? This is very common. But this question is problematic because in one day you have so many different experiences. In 1 hour you have so many different thoughts and memories and sights and sounds and so on. So how can you pick one? By picking one, then you become stuck in a certain story, a certain prison, because now you have to really defend it. But the truth is, in every moment, it's like a constant fluctuation. And so better to be free. Better to be free otherwise, because any story is trouble. Even a good story, it's also very problematic. And so, if I'm good, that's tricky. If I'm bad, that's also tricky. So, just being, I am. But how can we know? How can we figure that out? Otherwise, we become too attached. So now in terms of feeling, so we have 5 senses: smelling, tasting, seeing, hearing, feeling. Feeling is done with the whole body. And what I've learned recently in raising my son here in Cambodia, where we sleep together every night, every single night, cuddled up and with physical touch, and it's always my favorite part of every day for years. It's so sweet, the vibration and the tuning and everything about it. And so in Cambodia, because of that, people are very comfortable in their bodies and are more sensitive, are able to the sensation. And so we have to reawaken our capacity to sense. Right? And there's many practices. One very, very brilliant, her name was Charlotte Selver. And she was a German woman, she was in her 90s through a lot of this teaching time. And it's called sensory awareness. And there are different exercises, like physical movement or improvisation exercises to reawaken this sensation and awareness. And also massage or learning massage, these different ways, different practices that we can learn to focus on sensation. Sensation is a whole nother language. Problem is we're mostly thinking with words. So through different guided meditations or self-guided meditations, generally it's starting with this feel your body. That feeling is here and now. If you feel the weight of your body on the ground, you feel the air on your skin, you feel the breath at the tip of your nose, right? Because this is bringing you into the present moment. Feeling is now. Thinking is the past. Knowing is the past. But the sensing, feeling is now. And so, We have the gross feeling, like the touch on the skin. Then we have subtle feeling. In Qigong, they do lots of exercises working with energy body. This is a subtle feeling. So meditation is a lot subtle feeling, but also physical feeling. Pops in the neck and the spine, all kinds of things moving. You get these movement in your intestines and the things, so many things happening. So subtle sensation, and then we have like the pain or pulsing, vibration, heat, cold, all these things. So we have to, like you want to learn to go bird watching. You've never been bird watching. How do I watch the birds? How do you watch the birds? Then they'll explain to you. You have to go to this place at this time. You have to understand the rhythm of the birds, what time they're going where, what they're doing. You go to that place, and you have to be quiet, and you have to relax. And like this, you can learn how to see. And then wherever you go, you'll know how to see. You can see them wherever they are. So in the same way, we have to learn how to be sensitive. What is sensing? It means to be sensitive. Not sensitive in like an emotional way, sensitive in a expansive, activated nervous system way. Now, generally, I think almost probably 90% of people on the planet with the trauma in the nervous system, traumatic response that's become crystallized as an identity or personality through the nervous system. And so we have to remember how to feel. And this means relaxing the nervous system, massage, acupuncture, steaming, cold plunge, nature, forest bathing, swimming. All of these things are radical. Radical for relaxing your nervous system so you can be sensitive. It's like you have a muscle that's hypercontracted. Our whole essence is hypercontracted. And so in that state, we can't feel. Very difficult to feel. So that's why, first thing, relax. In order to relax, you have to forget yourself. Otherwise, we're always so obsessed. And it's never good enough. Even when we get the best, reach that thing that we really achieve it's still, we never have that feeling like, enough. It's never good enough. So, stop thinking. Especially about ourselves. And then to be authentic, to be real, this is love. And then we can love ourselves. But when we think about ourselves, it's always judgment. Mostly. Either we're judging or we're proud, which is the same. It's ego. So, what's needed is to relax. But we can relax when we're thinking, oh, but what about this? And I need to do that, and this, and what do they think? And what do I think? Like that. So this is why we recommend cultivating awareness. Awareness is different from thinking. Thinking, there's a goal. Awareness, there's no goal. Only then can you be free in the ultimate sense. One more question. Sneaky. Who am I? This is one of the major paths of yoga, of investigation to unravel the mind. You have a sweater, big sweater, arms, turtleneck sweater. And you get the one thread and you pull the thread, and the whole sweater comes apart. The arms, the front, the back, and the turtleneck. So, you have a body, arms, legs, torso, intestines, liver, gallbladder, lungs, heart, and so on and so forth. But who am I? I drive the car, and I get where I'm going, I get out of the car. I'm not the car. Am I the car? No. I'm not the car. I put on my clothes and I go out and do my thing. At the end of the day, I take off the clothes. Am I my clothes? No. So this body, is this me? This vehicle, this clothing? So who am I? This is the path of self-inquiry, Atma Vichara. If you can figure out what you're not, then what remains is who you are. So you go and investigate. Am I this body? In sleep, in the dreaming state, I don't have this body. I have a different body. Where did that body come from? And then I wake up. Where does that body go? So, am I these thoughts? Am I these successes and failures? And so like that we keep investigating, and eventually we get to the place where there's no answer. So that no answer is the answer. When your mind stops, that's the answer. This is like a koan. I'm a woman, I'm a business person, I'm a poor person, I'm a rich person. All this is like on the surface. So this question of I am, who am I, it's like a thorn. You have a thorn in your side. You need to take another thorn in order to pull that one out. You need something. This ego is like a thorn. Every day so much problems because of me, my body, my family, my business, my life. This my. If someone else, they're having the problem, but you don't know them, you don't care. Not my problem. Car crash, plane crashes, all these people die. Not my people. So I don't care. All of a sudden I get a call, oh, my cousin was on the flight. Now I care. So it's the my. It's this possessive, the possession. So who am I? When the eye is temporary, when we see through the eye, the false eye, then you're free. As long as you're stuck in the false eye, then it's like a cage. It's too tight. And so this question is to see, you're in the cage, but the cage has no door. The door is not locked. So it's simply a habit. This identification, false identification. So, who am I? This is the path of Ramana Maharshi. And I did it, I just booked my tickets today. I'm going to the Arunachala in like 10 days or something. This is the sacred mountain where Ramana and many of the yogis meditated on this eternal essence of being. And this path, which they call self-inquiry. But really, it's not, you might think it's like, oh, I have to ask, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? No. You ask, who am I? And then you see through everything. Am I these molecules? Where am I? Am I in the heart? Am I which part of the heart? In the cell, in the blood? Is it spread through everything? Is it one place? You go, you look, you see, and you all of a sudden you realize you can't know. Whatever we know, whatever this idea, who am I? It's a tiny fragment of the infinite that you are. I'm a woman like this, I'm a good person, I'm a bad person, whatever. Whatever conclusion we come to is 1/1,000,000th of that which you are. So, since it can't be known, then there's a gap. That gap is the answer. When you rest in that gap, then you know, but not with words. Enough talking. Let's take a minute or two to be quiet. Come back to center. Close your eyes, look up, breathe slowly. Mind is a rhythm. You change the rhythm of your breathing, you change your mind, you change the whole organism. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.